Welcome to How to Use the Business Model Canvas to Build Your Business Plan, hosted by the Urban League of Greater Philadelphia.
We're going to look at a tool. One of my favorite tools is called the Business Model Canvas. We're going to learn how to use the canvas as a business plan. We're going to look at each of the 9 boxes on the canvas and how to apply them to your business. I'm going to show you how to create an outline for a one-page business plan. And then we're going to convert that business model canvas into an actual business plan. So let's look really quickly at the business model canvas, right? It is 9 building blocks, and each block corresponds to a section on the business plan. Actually, when you put the certain blocks together, they correspond to a very particular 3 particular sections on the business plan, the 3 primary sections of a business plan, which you'll see as we move along. The business plan is easier to write from the canvas. There's a lot of anxiety around writing a business plan and what do you do and where do you start and all those things. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. The canvas is quicker to do. That's why we call it a sprint. And then looking at the canvas makes your business easier to understand. When you take the canvas, and you're all going to get a copy tonight, and you kind of spread it out on a bigger framework where you can actually look at it in these different blocks, it helps you to kind of get a better understanding of the type of business that you have, what the things are that you need to start, grow, and scale your business. It distills the ideas into concepts too. So you may have a really large idea right now, but what the canvas is going to allow you to do is really kind of streamline those ideas into, or that idea into particular concepts for you to be able to implement. And then it lets you focus on what's important, that's a part of your business plan and the business plan model. Start with the value proposition. What problem is your business solving, right? The value proposition is all about how do you add value to your customer's life. And so what you want to work on, or what you want to do as a part of this very first box, is you want to ask yourself a couple questions. You want to know your why, right? How does your product or service add value? What was your aha moment, the motivation that led you to create the business? Do you remember your aha moment? And then the functionality and packaging of the business. How are you going to present your your value? How are you going to, and your end product, and how your product or services work? And then who needs it and your why? All of those are questions that you want to ask yourself as you think about your value proposition, with the big overarching questions being, what problem is it that your business is solving? And what value is the product or service that you're offering adding to that customer? Next is key partners. Who will help you? What relationships do you have with other businesses, whether it be governmental, non-consumer entities that help your business model work, right? And so I'll use an example when we talk about a key partner of a t-shirt company. A t-shirt company, or an apparel company, for example, that wants to launch this dynamic new streetwear, or cultural brand, right? They start with a t-shirt, right? Well, they have to have a key partner would be where they're gonna get the shirts from, right? Another key partner would be who's gonna print it, right? And so thinking about those key partners, and now those are both businesses, but then you also have to think about the governmental or non-governmental entities if it relates to you. And everyone, in some sense, it relates, especially if you're a new idea stage business. The governmental is certainly related because you need your EIN number. You need to determine what business structure you're going to use, whether that's a LLC or are you going to incorporate. All of those things are part of you determining how you're going to structure and move your business forward. Next is key activities. How do you do what you do? Right? The most important thing a company must do to make its business model work. Well, how do you do what you do? Right? How do you deliver those services? And we heard a great example tonight. A young lady, her name is skipping me right now because I'm getting up there in age. Who talked about her presentation today, right? That was a great example of of making the business model work of how she's going to do it, right? Going out, doing that presentation today, and talking to the actual consumers. And I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that later when we get to marketing. But all activities that your business is engaged in for the primary purpose of making money, right? Those are the business activities, right? Are those presentations, the marketing, the operations, the production, the problem solving, the administration, the day to day operations, all of that are the key activities of what you are going to do to make this business run. Next is key resources. What do you need? Key partners is who do you need, right? Key resources is what do you need? What are the most important assets? And so I'll go right back to the t-shirt example. Right? They've got an idea for this, this dope brand that they want to create, right? So they need the physical shirt. They also need maybe a graphic designer, right? That's the intellectual properties, right? The key resources of the capital, right? The financial. What do you need? What are all the things that you need to grow? Next is cost structure. What will it cost? This is so important. And I would encourage you to really take a deep dive in what will it cost you to actually run and operate your business. So many times as entrepreneurs, we jump right in, we get started, and we have not taken a proper assessment of what it will cost, including paying ourselves to run our business. And then we make the excuse of, well, I put whatever we made back into the business. Well, that's fine, but you also at some point have to get to a place where you are paying yourself. So as you're building your business, you need to know what your time is worth, what it will cost you to actually run this business. And so the most important asset requires to make the business model work. And so we look at two things in cost structure, and that is the variable cost and fixed cost. Fixed cost, if you are a brick and mortar, is rent and insurance for that building. Right? Or utility bills. Those are some fixed costs, right? And depending on what type of platform or if you need some type of technology, those may fall into variable costs, right? Or anything that's not monthly or reoccurring, but maybe quarterly. Maybe there's some type of licensing related to the industry that you're in. That will be a variable cost because that's not monthly. That's maybe once a year that you have to pay a renewal or something like that. So thinking about the cost structure, what are those variable and those fixed costs? When we talk about customer relationships, and now that we looked a little bit at, we talked a little bit about who the customer is how do you inquire, engage, and retain those customers, right? And meaning how do you communicate with them? How do you inform them? How do you reward them? You have to know your customer well enough to know what type of communications works best for them, what messages work best for them. So as you all begin to get into the marketing perspective of this is just for you to really kind of keep in mind as you move forward throughout this process. I'm a big believer in under promising and over delivering when it comes to marketing. And that comes down to your messaging. So next is, and we kind of did a little bit of this just a few minutes ago, customer segments. We actually just gave Nika her customer segments, right? Those different groups of people, organizations, enterprises that you aim to reach, right? Are you B2B, which is business to business? Are you B2C, business to customer, or mix? And so Nika has a mix of both B2C, which is business, direct business to customer, right? As well as business to business, those businesses, small businesses, or other entities that are looking to sell their products and or services to older adults. And then next is the channels. And so channels are really all about the ways that you get in front of your customers, whether that is face to face, whether that is over the phone, whether that is a text message, whether that is an email, whether that's a newsletter, whether that's social media, whatever way it is that you determine is the best way to get in front of your ideal customer. And this is why you have to know who your customer is, because that's how you know what channel works best for them. And the senior citizens are a prime example, right? All seniors may not be on social media, right? All seniors may not have a cell phone, right? But you can, I guarantee you, if you pick up the phone and call them, they're going at home, they're going to answer their phone and have a conversation with you, right? I guarantee you, they still check their mail every day. They still go to the mailbox, whether they get their social security check, direct deposited or not. I assure you that they still are checking their mail every day. So these are some of the things that you have to think about when you think about your customer and the channels and the messages, right? Which channels works best for who and why, right? The types of channels, the phases, what channel phases, like how often are you going to be touching base with them? And the phases also is looking at what does the message entail? Is it what is the goal of the message? Is it awareness? Is it to evaluate? Is it the purchase? Is it delivery? Is it post sale? All of those are part of the phases that you need to look at when you're talking about channels. Next is revenue streams. And sometimes we kind of take this for granted. We may think it's automatic, or it's an assumption. How will you make money, and how much would you make? And this is when you all move towards the financial parts of this, and you start looking at who will pay you, how much will they be paying, all of those things. How do they prefer to pay? This is why you have to know your customer. And then looking at the different streams. So different streams meaning are they paying for an event, or like are they paying for one particular service? T-shirts, because this is an apparel company. T-shirts is one stream, right? Hoodies is another stream. Let's say pants may be another stream. Then sometimes apparel companies, they do events, so they may have an event, and so that's another stream. And how often they do that, and then they may also have a physical product, like say a water bottle or something like that. All of those are different streams of revenue. So how much will you make? What are people willing to pay? Again, this goes back to knowing your customers, how they prefer to pay. How much does each stream contribute to the overall revenue? What is the bottom line, right? What is the bottom line of each one of those streams, and what is the percentage? Ultimately, you want to know what is the percentage of each revenue stream. Now, here's an example of a finished canvas. This is an older version of Tesla from when it first kind of came out. But always like to take a look at it because it's pretty self-explanatory, right? Their value proposition is very clearly outlaid. Quickest acceleration, safest cars, uh, autopilot, charges fast, as easy as charging your phone. All of that was their part of their value proposition, right? But I want you to look at the right side of the canvas particularly. There's a couple things that always jump out when you look at the right side of the canvas. One customer segment, just one. But look at how specific it is. Environmentally and safety conscious
Mhm.
people making more than $100,000 a year. Now, certainly there are people out here that make less than $100,000 a year. We've those of you that may Uber or seen them on the street know that people that and I'm not going to try to think what's in folks' pockets, but I'm sure that there are people that make less than 100K, and probably folks that make 100 less than 100K that buy a Tesla, right? But this is their customer segment, and it was only one. That's because they took the time to really learn and know and be very specific about their customer, who their customers were. And then also they have two channels, right? Cell phone car dealership, and then direct sales network. Like there aren't Tesla dealers like there are a Buick or a Toyota dealership. It's very specific how you can get a Tesla. And then if you look down at the bottom, because I always like to look at the money, the cost of doing business is the technology, the software development, the ICT, which is another, technology thing, production, sales, marketing, and people. People is a part of their cost structure. The engineers, the people that do all of the work. And then if you look at the revenue, the revenue streams, it's not just about selling cars, right? It's the model. At that time was the Model 3, which got up to 600,000 miles. You could get that on a pre-sale at that time. So that means that was the type of car that they had. They only had the Model 3. They didn't have a truck and all the other things that you see now. They had the Model 3. Vehicle sales, the maintenance plans, the wall connector, all of those things are part of their revenue stream. This is why it's important to really do these exercises and really understand the channels, understand the customer relationships. This is the final look at the canvas itself, right? Key partners, key activities, key resources, value proposition, customer relations, customer segment, revenue stream, cost structure. And again, kind of like to look at it as far as the left side and the right side, um, and stemming from the value proposition. And then on the right side, really are those things that are really about the operations of the business. And on the other side is about the marketing and the financials of the business, right? Because you have your customer relations, your segments, your channels. And so this is a kind of like a last look at the canvas before we move on. I've done my canvas, right? Um, how does that translate to a business plan? How do I translate to the so every business plan has or should have these 5 areas, right? And so we are no longer really living in the time of 30, 40, 50-page business plans. Some people still do them. I'm not quite sure why. But you can really put together a nice business plan using the canvas. And basically, you would take um, parts of the canvas, right, and putting your business and telling your business story into from the canvas to get your business description, which would be your business, would be your value proposition, as well as all of the things on the left hand side, key resources, key partners, key activities. Those are kind of like the descriptions of your business, right? There will be overlap. Marketing, we already know that that's the right side of the canvas, right? Your customer segment, your customer relationships, your channels. That's your marketing side. Operations, key activities, key resources, the hows of how you're going to do your business, as well as your cost structure. what is it going to cost to do business taking that, and then obviously your financials, which are the two bottom parts of the canvas, which are your financials really kind of put together. And then once you've done those four things, those four sections, we were taught in business school that you did your executive summary last. So you would actually create your executive summary. Now that you have those four areas mapped out and you're building those four sections. Now an executive summary summarizes the entire business plan. This is a quote that I often like to refer to. In business, there's no failure. Either you learn or you grow. So business is always about trial and error. And then I want to add one last thing to this, and that is AI. And so this screen here is from our entrepreneur in resident. His name is Anthony Ricketts. He is an AI researcher who created a platform called Zaru Center. And so in our program, many of our members, they get in Anthony's program, they get an actual ChatGPT Plus as a part of that program because it allows them, the Plus is really the way to go because the general chat is a little bit more limited. But this is Anthony's, and I just wanted to add a couple of things and just really a little bit more on it. It's really all about the prompts and what you tell it. And so we have our own AI now because we've trained our chat GPT now to be able to engage with it on a certain kind of level. Gamma is an excellent AI platform for presentations to create slide decks and presentation models. And so it's really good for that as well.